Commander Shivex stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel, watching the stars drift past the view screen. For 300 years, the Vulcan Empire had been mapping this section of the galaxy. They were proud of their achievements. 47 intelligent species discovered. 47 new worlds catalogued. The Vulcan were explorers, scientists, and teachers to younger civilizations. Commander, we're detecting something unusual, Science Officer Telrin said, her crystalline body shimmering with excitement. The Vulcan were beings made of living crystal, their thoughts transmitting through light patterns within their bodies. Shivex moved closer to examine the readings. What is it? Radio signals. Electromagnetic transmissions from an uncharted yellow star system. Telrin's light pulsed faster. Commander, these are organized patterns. Music, voices. This is a civilization. The bridge crew gathered around. Another species. Their 48th discovery. Shivex felt pride surge through him. The Vulcan had a sacred duty to guide young species into the galactic community. To teach them. To help them grow. How advanced are they? Shivex asked. Telrin analyzed the data for several minutes. The transmissions are primitive. Radio waves, basic satellite signals. I estimate they achieved spaceflight maybe 50 to 70 years ago, based on the technology. They're very young, Commander. They probably haven't left their home system yet. Perfect, Shivex said. We'll approach slowly. Follow all first contact protocols. These people will remember this day for their entire history. The day the Vulcan brought them into the stars. The fleet changed course toward the yellow star. It took them 6 days to cross the distance. During that time, Telrin intercepted more signals. She heard music in strange languages, saw images of creatures with soft skin and bilateral symmetry. 2 eyes, 1 mouth, 4 limbs. They called themselves humans. Their world was called Earth. They seemed diverse, Telrin reported. Many different cultures, languages, even physical variations in skin color and features. Fascinating biology. Shivex approved the approach vector. They would enter the system peacefully, broadcasting friendship in all known mathematical languages. The young species would be afraid at first. They always were. But the Vulcan would show them kindness. The fleet dropped from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Immediately, Telrin's station erupted with alerts. Commander, we're being scanned. Active sensor locks from multiple sources. From the planet? Shivex asked. No, Commander. From ships. 3 vessels, military configuration, moving to intercept us. Shivex felt confusion ripple through his crystalline form. Military ships? This civilization was supposed to be barely spacefaring. Where were these vessels coming from? Put them on screen, he ordered. The view screen shifted. 3 sleek ships appeared, each one larger than his entire exploration fleet. They moved with precision, their hulls marked with symbols and text. Shivex could read the words painted on the lead ship, HSS Bison. They're hailing us, the communications officer said. Audio and visual. Commander, they're speaking our language. That's impossible, Shivex said. We've never encountered this species before. How could they, putting them through now? The screen changed. A human face appeared. She had dark hair pulled back from her face, sharp eyes, and wore a crisp uniform. She looked directly at Shivex with an expression of calm authority. Vulcan vessel, this is Captain G1 of the human space service ship Bison. You have entered protected space without authorization. Please state your intentions. Shivex stared at the screen. The human spoke perfect Vulcan. Not just the words, but the subtle harmonic overlays that gave the language meaning. She spoke like someone who had studied it for years. We are the Vulcan exploration fleet, Shivex managed. We detected your radio signals. We came to make first contact. To welcome you to the galaxy. Captain G1's expression didn't change. First contact? Commander, humans have been in space for nearly 700 years. We've made contact with thousands of species. She paused, including the Velcrin. We have 17 Velcrin citizens living on Earth right now. The bridge fell silent. Telrin made a sound like breaking glass, a Velcrin expression of shock. That's not possible, Shivek said. We would know. We would have records. You've been exploring the outer conservation zones, G1 said, not unkindly. Regions we set aside for younger species to develop naturally. The radio signals you detected were old broadcasts from our early space age. They've been traveling through space for centuries. Shivex felt his world tilting. We are the younger species? Everyone is young to someone, G1 said. Commander, I'm going to ask you to follow my ship. There's a station nearby where we can handle this properly through diplomatic channels. You're not in trouble, but we need to do this correctly. A station? Shivex asked weakly. Nexus Station Prime. It's about 2 light years from here. We'll escort you through the jump. Shivex looked at his crew. They were all as stunned as him, but they had little choice. We accept your invitation, Captain. Good. Follow us. We'll jump in 5 minutes. The screen went dark. Shivex turned to Telrin. Find everything you can about humans. Everything. Telrin worked frantically at her station. Commander, I'm accessing their public communication networks. They're not blocking us. I'm finding... stars. Stars above. What? They have documentation on every species we've ever discovered. Every single one. All 47 species are in their databases, cataloged decades before we found them. Telrin's light pulsed with rapid, panicked patterns. Commander, the entire region we've been exploring. They call it Sector 47J. It's listed as a low-priority exploration zone. Backwater space. Shivek sat down heavily. 300 years. 300 years of proud exploration. And they had been playing in someone else's backyard the entire time. Jumping in 30 seconds. Captain G1's voice came over the speakers. Shivex watched as the 3 human ships activated their jump drives. The technology was elegant, efficient, nothing like the clunky systems the Velcrin used. His fleet followed them into faster-than-light travel. When they emerged, Shivex's pride shattered completely. The station hung in space like a small moon. It was massive beyond comprehension, with docking rings that could hold hundreds of ships. Thousands of lights sparkled across its surface. Ships of every size and shape moved around it in organized traffic patterns. As Shivex watched, he saw vessels from dozens of different species, including Velcrin ships. His own people already here. Welcome to Nexus Station Prime, G1 said. Population, 4 million permanent residents, representing 372 species. We'll dock at Bay 17. An ambassador is waiting to meet you. Shivex couldn't speak. He simply stared at the station, at the proof that everything he thought he knew was wrong. His people weren't the explorers of the galaxy, thought they were the ones being discovered. The docking bay was larger than Shivex's entire ship. As the Velcrin delegation walked down the ramp, they saw crews from a dozen different species working together. A tall, furred creature operated a loading crane. 2 small beings with 6 legs scurried past carrying data tablets. And everywhere, there were humans. This way, please, said a young human woman in a professional uniform. Ambassador Haijin is waiting in the diplomatic suite. They followed her through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The station was built on a scale that made no sense. Why would anyone need something this large? Then Shivex saw a directory on the wall. It listed 50 different levels: shopping districts, residential zones, industrial sectors, parks. This wasn't just a station. It was a city in space. Tell single quotes. RYN kept her recorder active, documenting everything. Her light pulsed with nervous energy. "Commander, look," she whispered, pointing to a small cafe. Inside, a Valkyran sat at a table with two humans, drinking something from a cup. They were laughing together. The Valkyran wore casual clothing, nothing like the formal robes worn in the Empire. She looked happy. How long has she been here? Shivex wondered aloud. "According to station records, I've been here for 12 years, a voice said. They turned. The Valkyran from the cafe had approached them. She bowed in the human style. "My name is Kira. I heard more Valkyran had arrived. I wanted to welcome you. You left the Empire?" Shivex asked. "I joined the wider galaxy," Kira said gently. "I was a scientist. I wanted to work with the best minds in the universe. I found them here. Humans, Thrani, Calm, dozens of species, all collaborating. I've learned more in 12 years here than I did in 40 years back home." Before Shivex could respond, their guide spoke up. "We've arrived." The diplomatic suite was elegant, but not overwhelming. Ambassador Haijin stood waiting for them. She was an older human woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She bowed respectfully, a gesture that the Valkyran recognized. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," Haijin said in perfect Valkyran. "Please, sit. I imagine you have many questions." "We don't understand," Shivex said, sitting on the provided chair. "How is this possible?" "We've been exploring for 300 years. We've documented 47 species. We thought we were the advanced civilization." "You are advanced," Haijin said carefully. "Your technology is impressive. Your culture is rich. But you've been exploring a very small part of the galaxy, and we've been active in that region for less time than we've been active elsewhere." Telrin spoke up. "How many species do you know about?" Haijin turned to a holographic display. "As of this morning, we have documented contact with 12,847 intelligent species. Though that number grows regularly, we discover new civilizations every few months." The number hit Shivex like a physical blow. 12,000. His people had found 47 and thought themselves masters of exploration. When did humans achieve faster than light travel? Telrin asked, her scientist mind already working through the implications. "In your calendar system, it would be approximately 685 years ago," Haijin said. "We've been exploring ever since." 685 years, Shivex repeated. The Valkyran had only achieved FTL 300 years ago. The humans had a 400-year head. Telrin was accessing the station's public database through her tablet. Her light began pulsing in distress. Commander, you need to see this." She projected data into the air between them. It showed a map of the galaxy. Colored regions marked different zones of explored space. The area the Valkyran had spent 3 centuries mapping was a tiny blue dot. The human-explored regions covered nearly a third of the entire galaxy, marked in green. "The signals we detected," Telrin said, her voice shaking. "The radio broadcasts from Earth. You said they were old?" "About 700 years old," Haijin confirmed. "Radio waves travel at the speed of light. The broadcasts you heard were from before we achieved FTL travel. They've been traveling through space all this time. So when we thought we were finding a primitive civilization," Shivex said slowly, "we were actually listening to ancient history. Essentially." "Yes." Shivex stood and walked to the window. Outside, he could see ships coming and going. "So many ships. So many species. Why didn't you stop us? If you knew we were in your space, you weren't in our space," Haijin said. Space doesn't belong to anyone. You were exploring regions we designated as conservation zones 400 years ago. Areas where younger species could develop and grow without interference from the wider galaxy. We thought you wanted to be left alone. But we're explorers, Shivek said. And you did explore, Hyjin said kindly. You documented 47 species. That's an achievement to be proud of. It's just that we documented them first, usually decades earlier. Telrin was still reading through the database. Commander, every species we found is listed here. The colm we discovered 15 years ago? Humans made contact with them 43 years ago. The bread we found 60 years ago? Humans have a trade agreement with them that's 90 years old. We weren't discovering anyone, Shivek said bitterly. We were just following behind you, thinking we were first. You were first to those species, Hyjin said. They didn't know about humans. They remember the Velkrin as the ones who welcomed them to the stars. That still matters. Taiho, the station administrator, entered the room. He was a young human man carrying a datapad. Ambassador, I have the integration brief you requested. Thank you, Taiho. Hyjin took the pad and turned back to the Velkrin. I know this is overwhelming. Every species goes through this shock. The Tethrani did, 300 years ago. The colm did, 60 years ago. You're not alone in this experience. What happens now? Shivek asked. That's up to you, Hyjin said. You can return to your empire and report what you found. You can open diplomatic relations. You can request to join the Galactic Coordination Council. Or you can ask us to leave you alone, and we will. You would do that? Telrin asked. Just leave us alone? Of course, Hyjin said. We don't force anyone to join the galactic community. Every species has the right to choose their own path. Shivek looked at his science officer. Telrin, your opinion? We need to learn more, Telrin said. We need to understand how this happened. How one species became so widespread. Hyjin smiled. I can help with that. In 3 days, Earth is celebrating Founding Day. It commemorates our first colony beyond our home system. There will be historical presentations, including archives from our early expansion. Would you like to attend? Shivek thought about his empire, about returning home with this news, about the shock and disbelief that would follow. They needed proof. They needed understanding. Yes, he said. We would like to attend. Excellent, Hyjin said. I'll arrange transportation to Earth. In the meantime, please feel free to explore the station. Talk to the other species here. Learn what you can. And Commander? Yes? I know this is difficult. But I promise you, there's a place for the Velkrin in the galactic community. If you want it. As they left the diplomatic suite, Shivek felt numb. Everything he had believed about his people, about their place in the universe, had been shattered in a single day. Telrin touched his arm gently. Commander, we're explorers. We seek truth. Now we've found a truth bigger than we imagined. Isn't that what we always wanted? Shivek looked out at the vast station, at the thousands of beings moving through their lives, at the proof that the galaxy was far larger and more complex than he had ever dreamed. Yes, he said finally. I suppose it is. The transport ship dropped out of FDL travel, and Earth filled the view screen. Shivek had seen many worlds in his career, but this one stunned him. It was blue and green and white, swirling with clouds and gleaming with oceans. Lights covered the night side of the planet like stars brought down from the sky. Around the planet, massive orbital structures hung in space. Stations, habitats, shipyards. 12 billion people live on the surface, Captain Jiwan said. She had volunteered to pilot them personally. Another 8 billion in the orbital habitats. This is humanity's birthplace, but most humans have never lived here. We're spread across 10,000 worlds now. 10,000 worlds. Shivex tried to imagine that kind of population. The entire Velcrin Empire had only colonized 15 planets in 300 years. They landed at a facility in a city called Seoul. The spaceport was enormous, with hundreds of ships coming and going every hour. As they descended, Shivex saw the city stretching to the horizon. Towers of metal and glass. Gardens on rooftops. Vehicles moving through the air in organized streams. Dr. Sora met them at the landing pad. She was a middle-aged human woman with gray-streaked hair and an easy smile. She wore simple clothes and carried a data tablet covered in notes. "Welcome to Earth," she said in Velcrin. "I'm Dr. Sora, Chief Historian at the Terran Archives. I'll be your guide today." They followed her into a building that looked like it was made of light and glass. Inside, holographic displays showed images of human history. Ancient Earth, early space stations, the first colony ships. "Before we begin the formal presentation," Sora said, "I want you to understand something. Humans didn't set out to dominate the galaxy. We didn't have a grand plan. We were just curious. And we couldn't stop exploring." She led them to a large circular room. In the center, a holographic projection system waited. As they took their seats, the lights dimmed. "Let me show you our story," Sora said. The hologram activated. Earth appeared, ancient and primitive. Cities made of stone. Ships with sails. Then progress, faster and faster. Electricity, flight, computers, rockets. In the year 2167, we achieved faster than light travel, Sora narrated. It was crude technology by current standards. Slow, dangerous, but it worked. Within a year, we had sent out 12 colony ships to nearby star systems. The hologram showed ships leaving Earth, spreading across the stars. "We were aggressive colonizers at first," Sora admitted. "Not in a military sense, but in our expansion. Humans breed quickly. We adapt to almost any environment. We're curious about everything. Within 100 years, we had colonies on over 200 worlds." Telrin was taking rapid notes. "But you must have encountered other species during this expansion." "We did," Sora said. "In 2251, we met the Tithrani. They were an aquatic species, peaceful and advanced. They taught us something crucial. We weren't alone, and we needed to learn diplomacy." The hologram showed blue-skinned beings with webbed appendages. Humans and Tithrani meeting, learning from each other. "The Tithrani introduced us to 6 other species," Sora continued. "And those species knew others. Suddenly, we understood that the galaxy was full of life. We changed our approach. Instead of just colonizing, we started exploring, meeting, trading, learning." The door opened, and an older human man entered. He walked with a slight limp and had scars on his hands. "Sorry I'm late," he said. "This is Minho," Sora said. "He was a colony ship captain for 40 years. I asked him to share some personal experiences." Minho sat down heavily. "I commanded the ship Magellan," he said. "We established 11 colonies between 2387 and 2421. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about the War of the Burning Suns." The hologram changed, showing 2 massive fleets facing each other in space. In 2387, 2 powerful empires went to war, Minho said. The Corval and the Vreth. Both were ancient civilizations. Both had weapons that could destroy planets. The war threatened to consume an entire sector of the galaxy. Billions would have died. What did humans do? Shivex asked. "We talked," Minho said simply. "We didn't have the military power to stop them. But we had something else. We had connections. We knew the Corval because we had traded with them. We knew the Wrath because we had helped them recover from a plague 10 years earlier. We had trust on both sides. The hologram showed human diplomats meeting with alien leaders. It took 5 years, Minho said. 5 years of negotiation, compromise, finding common ground. In the end, the war ended not with victory, but with a treaty. Both empires are now members of the Galactic Coordination Council. They trade with each other. Some have even intermarried. Sora brought up new images. By the year 2400, humans had contacted 200 species. By 2600, over 3,000. We didn't conquer. We connected. We built trade routes. Communication networks. We helped species share technology and culture. But why? Telrin asked. Why not use your advantage? You were ahead of everyone. Because we learned something early, Sora said. The Dothrani taught us this. Diversity makes everyone stronger. Every species has unique knowledge, unique perspectives. The more we connected with others, the more we all advanced. She showed them images of collaborative projects, mixed species research teams, joint colonies, cultural exchanges. Humans became natural mediators, Sora explained. We're adaptable. We can live in almost any environment. We learn languages easily. We're curious about other cultures. Over time, other species started asking us to help with disputes, with trade agreements, with first contact protocols for newly discovered civilizations. The human network, Shivek said. He had heard the term in the databases. Not our term, Sora said. Other species called it that. We just built communication relays to help ships navigate and stay in contact. Other species started using them. Then it became the standard. Minho leaned forward. There was darkness, too. In 2503, a plague swept through 47 species. A biological nightmare that jumped across species barriers. Humans were immune, but we watched billions die. We threw everything we had at finding a cure. Every human medical researcher, every facility, every resource. It took 8 years, but we found treatments for all 47 species. Those species remember, Sora said softly. They remember that humans could have let them die. Instead, we saved them. That kind of thing builds bonds that last centuries. The hologram showed modern Earth, the Galactic Coordination Council headquarters in Geneva. Representatives from thousands of species working together. Today, the GCC has representatives from over 8,000 species, Sora said. Humans make up about 30% of the representatives, proportional to our population and number of systems. We don't control the council. We're just one voice among many. But you built the infrastructure, Shivek said. The stations, the communication networks, the trade routes. We built a lot of it. Yes, Sora agreed. But other species have built plenty too. The Dothrani developed the medical scanner technology used across the galaxy. The Colm created the Universal Translation Matrix. The Brennid designed the habitat modules most space stations use. Everyone contributes. Telrin looked up from her notes. What about species like us? Species who didn't know about all this. Sora smiled gently. There are always species exploring for the first time. Always someone making their own first contact. 400 years ago, we established the conservation zones so that younger species could develop naturally. We don't want everyone to have the same shock you experienced. But we did experience it, Shivek said. Yes, Sora acknowledged. Because you were moving beyond the conservation zones, you were expanding. At some point, we were going to meet. We tried to make it as gentle as possible. Minho stood up. Commander, can I show you something? He led them to a window. Outside, they could see the city. Beings of dozens of species walking the streets together. A Valkyrian couple entered a restaurant with human friends. Children of different species played in a park. "This is what we built," Minho said. "Not an empire, not a conquest. A community. A place where everyone can live together, work together, grow together." Shivex watched a young Valkyrian child laughing with a human child. They were playing a game he didn't recognize. The Valkyrian child seemed completely comfortable, completely happy. "Our people can live here?" he asked. 23 Valkyrian citizens already do, Sora said. They left the Empire seeking opportunities, education, or just a change. They're all welcome here. And if the Valkyrian Empire wanted to join the galactic community? Telrin asked. Then we would welcome you, Sora said simply. The question is, what does the Valkyrian Empire want? That's a choice only you can make. As they prepared to leave, Shivex turned to Sora one last time. All of this, everything you've built. It started with curiosity, and it continues with cooperation, Sora said. That's the real secret. It's not about being first or strongest. It's about being willing to work together. The words stayed with Shivex during the entire journey back to Valkyrian space. The council chamber on the Valkyrian homeworld was filled with angry light. Hundreds of Valkyrian leaders pulsed with heated debate. Commander Shivex stood before them, having just finished his report. The reaction was exactly what he had feared. Lies. Elder Kreshtok shouted, his crystalline form glowing red with fury. The humans deceived you. They showed you false images, fabricated histories. We are the explorers. We discovered those species first. I verified everything, Telrin said, her voice steady despite her nervousness. I accessed their databases freely. I spoke with our own people living among them. Everything Commander Shivex reported is true. The galaxy is much larger than we knew, and humanity has been exploring it for hundreds of years. Then we have been living in ignorance, another elder said, believing ourselves advanced while we were merely children playing in a sandbox. The chamber erupted again. Some Valkyrian wanted to reject everything, to close their borders, and pretend the humans didn't exist. Others argued for immediate integration, saying they couldn't afford to fall further behind. The debate raged for hours. Finally, Empress Valshara raised her hand. The chamber fell silent. She was ancient, one of the oldest Valkyrian alive, and her word was law. This human ambassador, the Empress said. Hygiene. She offered to meet with me? Yes, Your Majesty, Shivex said. She said the choice is ours. They will respect any decision we make. Then I will meet her, Valshara declared. Not on their territory or ours. Neutral ground. Arrange it. 3 weeks later, a summit convened on Kepler 442, a remote border station operated by the Tithrani. The station was small, simple, designed specifically for neutral meetings. Empress Valshara arrived with a delegation of 12. Ambassador Hyjin arrived with only 3 people. One of them surprised Shivex. Councillor Hana was a human politician known for opposing expansion policies. She was young, passionate, and often critical of human dominance in galactic affairs. Why would Hyjin bring someone who disagreed with her? The meeting room was plain. A round table. Simple chairs. No decorations or displays of power. Valshara sat across from Hyjin, studying the human with ancient eyes. You are much older than you appear, the Empress said. Hyjin smiled slightly. Life extension technology. I'm actually 147 years old. But yes, I suppose that's young compared to Your Majesty. You speak our language well. I've been studying Valkyrian culture for 70 years, Hyjin said. Ever since we first detected your presence in the conservation zones, I hope to meet you one day. And now we meet because we stumbled into your territory, Valshara said. There was no bitterness in her voice, just fact. You were expanding naturally, Hyjin said. We expected this eventually. The conservation zones aren't prisons. They're just quiet spaces. We knew you'd grow beyond them when you were ready. Velshara gestured to Counselor Hana. This one is not a diplomat. Why is she here? Hana spoke up, her voice respectful but firm. Your Majesty, I'm here because I disagree with how humanity has handled situations like this. I believe we have too much influence, too much control over the galactic infrastructure. I think we should have been more transparent about our presence in the regions where the Velkrin were exploring. The Empress's light pulsed with surprise. You criticize your own people? I represent my conscience, Hana said. And I believe Ambassador Hyjin brought me here to show you that humans aren't unanimous. We debate. We disagree. We question our own actions. She's right, Hyjin said. I brought Hana because I want you to understand that humanity isn't perfect. We make mistakes. We have internal conflicts. Some of us think we've done too much in the galaxy. Some think we haven't done enough. We're just people trying to figure things out as we go. Velshara was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. Tell me my options, clearly. Hyjin laid 4 data tablets on the table. Full integration. You join the Galactic Coordination Council as a member species. You gain access to all human technology, all trade networks, all diplomatic channels. You also accept GC regulations and contribute to the common good. She touched the second tablet. Associate status. You maintain complete sovereignty. You engage in limited trade and cultural exchange on your own terms. You can participate in GCC discussions, but aren't bound by decisions. This is a middle path. The third tablet. Protected isolation. We designate your territory as a conservation zone. Humans and all other species withdraw. You develop at your own pace, completely undisturbed. We check in every 100 years to see if your position has changed. The fourth tablet. Complete independence. You acknowledge the GCC exists, but want no formal relationship. You're on your own. If you encounter problems, we won't help unless you specifically ask. If you encounter hostile species, you handle it yourselves. Which option do you recommend? Velshara asked. That's not my place to say, Hyjin replied. This is your civilization's future. Only you can decide what's right for your people. Telrin leaned forward. Your Majesty, if I may speak? Velshara nodded. I've studied the human records extensively, Telrin said. I've spoken with dozens of species who joined the GCC. Some joined immediately and thrived. Others took decades to decide and thrived. Some chose independence and also thrived. There's no wrong answer. The question is, what do the Velkrin want? What I want, Velshara said slowly, is to not feel like we are begging for scraps at someone else's table. Then don't join, Hana said bluntly. Your Majesty, humans will be fine if you choose independence. We have trade partners. We have allies. If the Velkrin want to stand alone, that's a valid choice. It's not an insult. Some of the most respected civilizations in the galaxy maintain independence. But you would be choosing to limit yourselves, Hyjin added. Not because we would punish you, but because you would miss opportunities. Scientific collaboration, cultural exchange, medical advances, economic growth. These things happen faster when species work together. Velshara looked at Shivex. Commander, you've seen their world. You've walked their stations. What do you think? Shivex had been dreading this question, but he answered honestly. Your Majesty, I was humbled. Everything I thought I knew was wrong. But I also saw wonders. I saw species working together in ways I never imagined. I saw a Velkrin child playing with a human child, both of them happy and safe. I saw possibilities I didn't know existed. You advocate for integration. I advocate for not letting pride blind us, Shivek said. We thought we were explorers. We were children playing in a sandbox. That's painful to accept. But the ocean is still there, whether we acknowledge it or not. We can stay in the sandbox, or we can learn to swim. The room was silent. Finally, Velshara stood. I need time. I will not make this decision in a single day. Of course, Hyjin said. Take all the time you need. I want to see more, Velshara continued. I want to visit your stations, meet more species, understand what we would be joining. We can arrange that, Hyjin said. Over the next 3 months, Velshara traveled through human space. She visited Nexus Prime. She met with representatives from dozens of species. She toured research facilities, trade hubs, and colony worlds. She saw the good and the bad. She saw cooperation and she saw conflicts. She saw humans at their best and at their worst. Finally, she made her decision. The announcement came from the Velkran homeworld. Empress Velshara stood before the entire council, with the galaxy watching through communication channels. The Velkran Empire chooses associate status, she declared. We will maintain our sovereignty and independence, but we will not hide from the galaxy. We will engage with the Galactic Coordination Council. We will trade, learn, and cooperate. For a trial period of 50 years, we will walk this path. Then, we will decide if we wish to deepen our involvement or pull back. She paused, her ancient light pulsing with determination. We were explorers who thought we knew the stars. We learned we knew only a small corner of them. This is not shame. This is opportunity. The Velkran will not retreat into ignorance. We will learn. We will grow. And perhaps one day, we will teach the galaxy something new. The council approved of the decision. Within weeks, trade ports opened in Velkran space. Cultural exchange programs began. And Telrin was appointed as the first Velkran ambassador to the Galactic Coordination Council. As she prepared to leave for Earth, Shivex came to see her off. I'm retiring from military service, he told her. I've been offered a position as a cultural liaison, helping other Velkran understand the galaxy. That's good, Telrin said. We need people like you. People who can admit when they were wrong and still move forward. What about you? Shivex asked. Nervous? Terrified, Telrin admitted. But also excited. We have so much to learn. And perhaps something to teach, Shivex said. Perhaps, Telrin agreed. As her ship lifted off toward Earth, Shivex watched the stars. Somewhere out there, another species was making their first radio broadcasts. Another civilization was taking their first steps into space. And one day, they too would discover that the galaxy was far bigger than they ever imagined. The cycle would continue, and the Velkran would be ready to help guide them, just as the humans had guided the Velkran, not with conquest, but with cooperation. That, Shivex realized, was the real power humanity had discovered, not the power to dominate, the power to connect. 5 years had passed since the Velkran joined the galactic community. Ambassador Telrin stood in her office on Earth, looking out at the city of Geneva. The Galactic Coordination Council building rose behind her, a tower of glass and steel where representatives from thousands of species worked together daily. Her office walls displayed artwork from dozens of civilizations. A Tithrani water sculpture flowed in one corner. A human painting of Earth hung beside a Vulcan crystal formation. And on her desk sat a photo of her family, including a small human child she had adopted 3 years ago. Ambassador, the delegation from the Kulari has arrived, her assistant said. The assistant was a young Velkrin named Kreshina, fresh from the Empire and eager to learn. The new species? Telrin asked. Yes, ma'am. They detected human radio signals 2 years ago and sent a fleet to make first contact. They just arrived at Nexus Prime last week. Telrin smiled. She knew this story well. She had lived it herself. How are they handling the revelation? About as well as we did, Krishana said with a light pulse that indicated amusement. Shock, denial, then fascination. Send them in. The Kalari delegation entered. They were insectoid beings with compound eyes and delicate wings. Their leader, a scientist named Zixtal, bowed in the universal gesture of respect. Ambassador Telrin, Zixtal said through a translation device. Thank you for meeting with us. We've heard you went through a similar experience to ours. I did, Telrin said. Please, sit. Tell me how you're feeling. For the next hour, Zixtal shared the Kalari story. It was almost identical to the Vulcan experience. Years of proud exploration. The discovery of radio signals. The approach to what they thought was a primitive species. The shock of learning that humans had been in space for 700 years. We thought we were explorers, Zixtal said. We thought we were bringing light to the darkness. Instead, we found that someone had already illuminated the entire galaxy. And how does that make you feel? Telrin asked gently. Small, Zixtal admitted. Insignificant. Like our achievements meant nothing. Telrin stood and walked to her window. Let me tell you something I learned. Your achievements do matter. You explored. You discovered. You reached out to the stars. That takes courage and intelligence. The fact that someone else did it first doesn't diminish what you accomplished. But we're so far behind, Zixtal said. Behind what? Behind whom? Telrin turned back to face them. The galaxy isn't a race. There's no finish line. Yes, humans have been in space longer. Yes, they built much of the infrastructure we all use. But they didn't do it to win. They did it because they were curious. And now they share it with everyone. Krishana brought them tea, a human custom that Telrin had grown to love. As they drank, she continued. 5 years ago, I felt exactly as you do now. But I've learned something important. Humans don't rule the galaxy. They built roads through it. There's a difference. I don't understand, Zixtal said. When humans built the communication network, they didn't restrict who could use it. When they established trade routes, they didn't control what was traded. When they created the Galactic Coordination Council, they gave every species an equal voice. Yes, they built the infrastructure, but they gave everyone access to it. Telrin pulled up a holographic display. It showed voting records from the GCC over the past 5 years. Look at this, she said. These are major decisions made by the Council. This one here, the establishment of new conservation zones. Humans voted against it. They were outvoted by other species. The proposal passed anyway. They were outvoted? Zixtal said in surprise. Of course. They're one species among thousands. Sometimes they win votes. Sometimes they lose. Last year, they wanted to fund a deep space exploration mission. The Council rejected it, saying resources should go to medical research instead. The humans accepted the decision and contributed to the medical research. Telrin showed them another record. Here's a trade dispute between the Brennid and the Tethrani. Humans mediated, but the final decision was made by a calm arbitrator. Humans respected the ruling, even though it went against their trading partners. So they don't actually control everything? Zixtal asked. They influence things, yes. They're numerous. They're connected. They have resources. But control? No. The galaxy is too big, too diverse for any one species to control. Before Zixtal could respond, Telrin's communicator chimed. It was Admiral Jiwan, the same human who had intercepted the Vulcan fleet 5 years ago. Ambassador, we have a situation, Jiwan said. We've detected new radio signals from an unexplored region. Another species making their first broadcasts. I'm assembling a first contact team. Would the Velkrin like to participate? Telrin felt a surge of excitement. Yes, absolutely. Who else is on the team? Representatives from the Tithrani, the Colm, and the Brennid. And I'd like to invite the Kalari as well, if they're interested. Zixtail's wings fluttered with surprise. Us? But we just arrived. We're still learning how everything works. Exactly, Jiwan said. You understand what it's like to be the newcomer. That perspective is valuable. Plus, first contact is how we all learn together. 2 days later, they were aboard the HSS Kepler, Admiral Jiwan's flagship. The ship was large but not military in design. It was built for exploration, with comfortable quarters for diverse species and extensive research facilities. Telrin found G1 on the bridge. Studying data on the new species. What do we know about them? Telrin asked. They call themselves the Nari, G1 said. Carbon-based, bipedal, early space age. They've achieved orbital flight and have 3 satellites around their homeworld. The radio signals we detected are about 90 years old. So they're further along than we thought we were? Telrin said with amusement. Everyone develops differently, G1 said. The question is, how do we approach them? What did you learn from your own first contact experience? Telrin thought carefully. We were approached as if we were primitive. That was not ideal. Even though it was true in some ways, it felt condescending. Good point, G1 said. She turned to the rest of the team. Ideas? The Tithrani representative, a diplomat named Kelser, spoke up. We should be honest from the start. Tell them the truth about the galactic community. Don't let them build false expectations. But gently, the Colm added. The truth can be overwhelming. We should let them choose the pace, Zixtal suggested. Give them information, but let them decide how much they want to engage. Jiwan nodded. I like these suggestions. We'll approach peacefully, be honest about who we are, and let them guide the conversation. Telrin, would you be willing to take the lead in the first communication? Me? Telrin said in surprise. You understand their position better than any human can, Jiwan said. You remember what it was like to be on the other side of first contact. That makes you the right person for this. They dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Nari system. The team spent 2 days observing, learning the Nari language from their broadcasts, understanding their culture. When they were ready, Telrin recorded a message in the Nari's own language. People of Nari, my name is Telrin. I am not from your world. I come from a place called Valkra, many light years from here. I am part of a community of many species who travel the stars. We heard your signals, and we wanted to meet you. We come in peace with friendship and respect. If you wish to speak with us, we are here. If you prefer we leave, we will respect that choice. The decision is yours. They broadcast the message and waited. 3 hours later, they received a response. The Nari were terrified, excited, and full of questions. Telrin answered them honestly. Yes, there were many species in the galaxy. Yes, they had been traveling in space for a long time. Yes, the Nari were welcome to join the community if they wished. Over the next 2 weeks, they held careful discussions with Nari leaders. Telrin shared her own story, holding nothing back. She told them about the Velkrin shock, their humbling, their choice to join the galactic community. We thought we were alone, one Nari leader said. We thought we were special, the only ones who had achieved space travel. You are special, Telrin said. Every species is unique. Every perspective is valuable. You achieve space travel through your own effort, your own intelligence. That's worth celebrating. But we're so primitive compared to you, the Nari said. You're young, Telrin corrected. Not primitive, Young. Everyone was young once. Humans, Velcrin, all of us. Being young isn't a weakness. It's potential. The Nari chose to open limited contact. They wanted to learn but weren't ready to join the GCC. They asked for teachers, for access to medical technology, for cultural exchanges. The team agreed to all of it. As they prepared to leave, the young Nari scientist who had led the discussions approached Talrin privately. "Ambassador, may I ask you something?" "Of course. Do humans really rule the galaxy?" "Everyone says they do, but you say they don't. Which is true?" Talrin thought about her adopted son, Dongwu. She thought about her life on Earth, her work at the Council, her friendships with beings from dozens of species. She thought about everything she had learned in 5 years. "Here's what I've learned," she said. "Humans built the roads. They created the network. They established the systems that connect us all. In that sense, yes, they're everywhere. Their influence is massive, but rule? No, they built the infrastructure.